Moonlight wrapped the countryside in silvery veils, draping each blade of grass and every patch of soft earth in a glow both gentle and mysterious. Far from the hum of streetlights or the warmth of bustling villages, the old railway stretched like a forgotten vein, pulsing quietly under the watchful gaze of the full moon. While the world around it slumbered, suspended between yesterday and tomorrow, a tiny wooden platform emerged from the darkness. Moonlight Station. No conductor's lantern shone here, and no ink-black sign announced its name. To travelers, it seemed as though the station was conjured out of the mist by the moon itself, appearing with uncanny precision as the midnight hour approached. Moss crept along the porch's beams, curling up around time-worn planks that remembered every footstep ever set upon them. On the edge of the platform, a solitary bench, warped with age and softened by the patient caress of lichen, sat in perfect stillness, a sentry awaiting guests from another world. That night, the silence was so deep it felt like the station floated in a sea of hush. Far-off night birds threatened to disturb the peace, but then thought better of it, bedding down in the safety of distant trees. The only sound was the steady ticking of an old brass-rimmed clock, its hands inching towards midnight with the slow assurance of a bedtime story's last page. Each tick seeped into the mist, lulling even the wind into stillness. As the clock's minute hand kissed the hour, a hush even deeper than silence descended. From the far end of the track came the faintest tremor, metal wheels whispering over old iron, as if the rails themselves had begun to dream. Out of the fog emerged the sleepy train. An elegant line of carriages painted the dark purple of forgotten violets, banded at the edges with a ripple of silver that caught the moon's beams. The train moved like a sigh, soft and unhurried, no whistle and no rattle, each car drawing itself quietly below the lanterned sky. The engine's windows, shaped round and heavy-lidded like a drowsy cat's eyes, glowed from within. The warm light spilled out, gentle and golden, offering a wordless invitation to all who waited in the hush. The doors opened with the faintest of breaths, blending seamlessly into the rhythm of the midnight hour. On the platform, an old woman straightened from her bench, wrapping her unfinished scarf with care. Her hair shimmered white in the moonlight, cloud-like and gentle. Her hands, as graceful as the mist, gathered her knitting needles and set them inside her basket. She reached for her cane, lightly tapping it to the platform as she stood. With a subtle nod to the empty night, she walked toward the train, neither hurried nor uncertain, but with the calm assurance of someone who'd always known her journey would begin here, under the moon's steady gaze. At her side, a small boy pressed himself sleepily against a weathered lamppost, his little hands still clutching a worn teddy bear whose button eyes reflected the weak lamp glow above. The boy's clogs made quiet clacks on the timber boards, muffled by the dampness of the midnight air. Wordlessly, he trailed after the old woman, his head bobbing gently in time with the clock's soothing ticks, as if each footstep was the turning of a page in a favorite dream. A gentle stir from the other end of the bench broke the silence next. A calico cat, her fur patterned in mottled creams and oranges, awoke from a basket lined with soft cloths. She yawned, stretching with feline grace and a regal flick of her tail. Her green eyes, half-lidded but sharp, glimmered with a knowing look. Of course the train had come, as it always did, just for her. With a quiet leap, she glided across the platform, weaving in and out of the mist, then bounded up into the carriage as though she'd held a ticket all along. In the stillest shadow, beneath the flickering lamplight, sat a silver-haired man whose presence seemed stitched from the night itself. The hem of his ash-gray cloak brushed the boards, while his fingers traced slow, fond circles across the battered cover of a notebook laid open in his lap. The pages, covered in looping, untidy script, whispered of half-remembered stories, poems never finished, maps of dreams once vivid and now faded at the edges. Without a sound, the man stood and closed his book. He took a single breath of cool, night-spiced air, then walked with measured steps towards the rearmost car, where the lanterns glowed with the first tentative promise of dawn. No voices broke the quiet as each figure boarded the train. There were no goodbyes, no glances cast behind, no tickets exchanged, no questions asked. They all moved as if in a trance, following a secret script known only to those who travel where maps run out and time grows thin. The station behind them faded into mist, the bench and clock and moss retreating softly, as if erasing their footprints in the velvet dark. Within the train, thick carpets muffled every footfall. The carriages were filled with overstuffed velvet seats and drowsy lamps whose golden halos drifted lazily over travelers' faces. Blankets, woven from threads the color of starlight and twilight and the gentle promise of rest, were folded at arm's reach. Each seat was its own private cradle, inviting those aboard to slip quietly into dreams. With a faint metallic exhale, the train trembled, a shiver running down its length from engine to caboose. Its doors slipped closed, drawing the passengers away from the world of rice fields and mist and into the realm of wondering sleep. Without notice or fuss, the train began its measured journey, wheels cradled by the tracks with infinite patience. It moved through the night, into mysteries untraveled and stories untold, floating across a world soft with dew and moonlight. The fields outside stood hushed, awed by the procession they couldn't fully see, but sensed in each hush of the wind and every shimmer in the corner of their dreams. Those aboard did not ride to arrive, but simply to let go, casting off the burdens that daylight pressed into their hands, exchanging urgency for rest, and trading worry for the sweet, silent promise of dreaming. In Moonlight Station's gentle embrace, deep within the night, the train whispered on its way, carrying all who dared to believe in journeys that begin only when the world is sleeping. The steady pulse of the train resonated through the quiet night, a gentle undertone that merged with the darkness outside. It moved with an unhurried certainty, almost floating over the rails, as if it were both a vessel and a lullaby, transporting its passengers not just across distance, but into a deeper, more mysterious realm, the borderland between waking and sleep. There was no whistle, no sharp burst of steam, only the subdued persistence of wheels sliding over polished tracks, echoing faintly like a half-remembered song lost to memory. Beyond the round window, the world had transformed. The night field stretched out infinitely, unbroken and serene beneath a faint silver haze. Dew glimmered softly on every grass blade, tracing hidden pathways across the quilt of velvet-black rice paddies. The pale shimmer gathered at the edges of ditches and pooled in the hollows, until all the earth seemed quietened beneath a vast, muted blanket, a gentle shroud drawn over the day. It was a land that existed somewhere behind closed eyes, a place stripped of solid boundaries where even the horizon faded into a gentle blur. Here and there, pockets of fireflies floated above the grasses, their lights flickering lazily with a sleepy glow. Not the urgent blinking of summer's feverish courting, but the soft, diffuse rhythm of a dream. Some lofted higher still, holding above the train like lanterns with an unearthly purpose. Their movements were languid, as if whatever governed their flight was itself drifting along trails of sleep. Once, it was said, these lights were the stray thoughts of night, cast loose from the world of consciousness, left to wander until someone, somewhere, plucked them from the ether and wove them into a dream. Within the train, silence reigned as quietly as the darkness outside. The only illumination came from muted bulbs, glowing warm and golden above velvet seats, bathing everything in a drowsy half-light. Passengers rested in their seats. No one disturbed the hush. No one shifted or spoke. In that cocoon of tranquility, the pulse of the train and the even rise and fall of breath became the only measures of time. It was as though the very carriage had settled into sleep, each traveler tucked between the pages of their own silent dream, together yet apart in the softly rocking embrace of the journey. By the window sat a boy, his small arms curled tightly around an old teddy bear, the bear's fur patched and worn, white stitches pressing against its shoulder. The boy's head slumped gently, the way a kite bends to the wind, his face pressed to the plush fur. In the soft light, the bear's eyes, small and shiny, seemed to glimmer with their own secrets, gazing out into the darkness with the wisdom of 1,000 night trains. The boy's grip softened, his breathing slowed, and soon both child and bear teetered at the edge of sleep, adrift in the warm half-light. Nearby, an old woman sat cradling a length of yarn, her needles discarded on the seat beside her. She had been knitting a scarf, deep maroon streaked with gentle gold. Now, as the train murmur soothed her, her head tilted to one side. The ball of yarn slipped from her limp fingers, rolling soundlessly across the wooden floor, weaving its own dance to the rhythm of the rails. Her lips parted, as if speaking some forgotten name. The syllables carried off to join the softly swirling thoughts just beyond the train. At the length of a bench, a calico cat had curled into a perfect, drowsy circle. Its sides rose and fell with each silent breath, and every so often an ear would twitch in response to the passing dreams. Perhaps the cat heard echoes beyond the memory of sound, or perhaps it wandered flowery fields and sun-dappled gardens in its private slumber. Its whiskers shivered, a gentle flutter as of petals falling, while its tail tucked itself into a coil of perfect contentment. Even its gentle snores became part of the lullaby, blending seamlessly into the hush of the sleeping passengers. Near the end of the carriage, where the lamplight pooled softly and shadows gathered in the corners, an old man sat with a notebook open on his knees. He was a writer by trade, though tonight his pen hovered, idle, above a blank page. He stared through the pane at the moon's reflection, its silver disk a tiny, perfect lake caught in his glasses. A smile touched the edges of his lips, not the forced kind of waking conversation, but a secret, satisfied curve that required no words. Carefully, he leaned back, and his eyelids drifted shut. The pen slipped from his fingers, landing gently in the hollow between his hands, as though marking the moment between thought and dream. Perhaps he knew what others did not, that tonight, there were no more stories to capture, only dreams to ride. Still, the train continued, unstoppable yet utterly gentle, carrying its silent cargo through endless moon-drenched fields. The scent of grass and sweet dew threaded its way in through unseen gaps, drifting over soft wool coats and into the dreams of everyone on board. A silver cloud drifted ghost-like across the face of the moon, scattering its light over rippling paddies and the distant shifting wings of birds asleep on the wind. In their silent flight, not even the air dared stir loudly. Everything moved with a weightless caution, cradling the night's many secrets. No footsteps sounded in the aisles. No voices broke the stillness with memories or hopes. Passengers rested like statues in velvet and candlelight, suspended between waking and slumber, the train bearing them forward on a current deeper and older than any river. There was no need for farewells, no need for destination or name. The beginning of the dream was wordless, yet unmistakable, woven into the gentle passage of wheels and the hushed, even music of the rails. And so, through that quiet landscape, fields glimmering beneath a delicate veil, fireflies drifting in the darkness, train and traveler alike adrift between worlds, the dream unfurled. Carried by the lull of the journey, every heart aboard surrendered to the night, and together they traveled through the dream fields, not waking but dreaming, held safe within the arms of sleep and silence. On a night where fog gathers low and thick, when the familiar shapes of the world dissolve into mist, the train arrives. Never announced, never proclaimed, it simply appears, as if conjured by the twilight itself, or summoned by the dreams lying in wait behind heavy eyelids. It has no name, for to name something is to fix it in this world, to give it reality. The train belongs instead to the borderland, to the uncertain territory between waking and sleeping, a creation as ephemeral and fleeting as the breath that clouds a cold window pane. There is no memory of stepping onto the platform, no recollection of buying a fare or hearing a conductor's call. Yet there you are, somewhere between yesterday and tomorrow, standing in an unreal station with soft lights suffusing every shadow, only the sensation of hush and the distant hum of possibility in the silent air. The first car beckons with the quiet gravity of a secret. There is a peace to it, an expectant hush, like the world holding its breath at the close of day. At its center stands a vast hourglass, tall enough to cast shifting shadows on the domed ceiling above. But no sand tumbles from its upper to its lower chamber. Instead, radiant threads sparkle and dance as they fall, shimmering and changing hue with every heartbeat. Each droplet is not mere sand, but distilled light, fleeting, dew-like fragments of dawn and dusk, slipping inexorably into the well of night. Whenever a drop lands below, a dream is born. Not a new dream, but a remembered one, summoned by the sleeper as they pass through. The walls are draped with masks, each one capturing the uncanny tranquility of slumber. 100 serene faces with eyes closed, as if suspended between waking and dreaming. They seem familiar, reflections of the passengers themselves. Linger too long and the air seems to ripple. Breath becomes shallow, and the border between self and mask, between this life and another, grows thin. To pause here is to risk being tugged by unseen currents into a second existence. Perhaps an echo of your own. Perhaps a dream lived by someone else. A tumble through memory, a temporary leasing of another's heart. Beyond, the corridor widens and the train slides into the second car. The storeroom of memories. Ranged on shelves, stacked by the dozen, are suitcases of every color and shape. Battered leather trunks rubbed smooth by 1,000 journeys. Glittering metal cases glowing faintly in the gloom. Dainty boxes bound in twine and ribbons faded with age. Each suitcase bears a name, a real name, though many are now lost to time, remembered only in dreams. These cases open not with a key, but with a gentle touch, as if the memory within knows its owner by the warmth of their hand alone. A small girl, her cheeks damp with sleep, opens a battered case and finds a photograph crisp with the ache of absence. Her family, smiling in a summer field, remembered only in fragments, all of them lost to war. Her sobs are muffled by the hush of the train, but the memory hangs in the air, luminous and terrible. An old man, his hands trembling as though he carries both hunger and hope in his bones, opens his suitcase and finds a letter, yellowed and creased, a declaration of love never posted, the perfumed script dissolving as he hedges once more between courage and fear. Sometimes, a case contains only a solitary object, a feather so light that it seems to be made of mist, a totem of something too fragile to recall completely. No passenger may unlock more than a single suitcase. Those who lose themselves in other memories risk confusion, mistaking the echo for their own heart's voice, and may become lost in reveries that do not truly belong to them, wanderers in another season of life, unable to return. The third car is not for every soul. Talk passes softly along the length of the train. Only those who have lost something essential, something woven into the core of who they are, find the door open before them. Inside, the air shifts and shimmers. There are no seats, no windows. Instead, the space seems to spill outward, bounded only by smoke and warmth that is both strange and familiar. The sensation of a mother's palm pressed to a fevered brow. The weight and safety of being held, once, long ago. Up above, hundreds of glassy bubbles float, gliding gently from one end of the car to another. Each bubble contains a flickering image, some clear, some only suggested. These are the old wishes, the dreams abandoned or forgotten in the press of mundane days. Encourage draws passengers upward, hands reaching for the bubbles as if to hold what was once dear. With a gentle touch, a memory bursts open and soundless music fills the air. You might hear, in the fragile whisper, the promise you made to yourself at 10, or the laughter of friends now far away, or the hope that you thought had faded entirely. Some sit cross-legged on the soft floor, tears streaking their faces, faces open and childlike in their longing. Some find release, letting go as the memory dissolves into unremarkable light, and their bodies lighten, drifting upward, disappearing like so much mist dispersing in new morning sun. The train itself breathes with emotion, drawing its mysterious energy not from coal or steam, but from the strength of feeling carried on board its cars. The deeper the longing or grief, the swifter the train glides through the folds of night, the more distances collapse and boundaries blur. It makes no mechanical rattle, no whistle or station bell. Instead, it whispers, a current of sensation, a vibration through the rails and into the bones of its travelers. The iron beams hum faintly, as if strummed by invisible fingers, their music a lullaby older than language, cradling the heart with ineffable comfort. No voices disturb this space. There is no need for conversation, for in this sacred hush, Everyone's thoughts play as dreams behind closed eyes. Words become unnecessary. The language here is feeling. Nostalgia mingling with sorrow. Hope interwoven with loss. As the passengers sink into their seats, eyelids flutter, and silent tears or small unconscious smiles shape their faces. They surrender to the train's embrace. They do not journey toward a destination. Instead, they drift, timeless and placeless, carried gently by the current of half-forgotten stories, woven into the fabric of a dream that has no end. Thus, the whispering train glides forever through the fog, a vessel for lost wishes, for unlived memories, for all the sweet and painful things that dwell just out of sight. And sometime, when the fog is thick and the world hushed, you too may find yourself listening to the lullaby of its distant beckoning song. As the train rumbled away from the carriages filled with memories and dreams, it crossed a border that has no signpost, an invisible line where the world of dreams and the world of waking melt together, blurring so completely that there is no longer any true separation. Outside the train's window, under the gentle, silvery gaze of the moon, villages began to appear. They were small, with winding lanes and ramshackle houses, places unknown to any map and unnamed by any tongue. Each seemed spun from mist, as insubstantial as memory, as real as longing. In these villages, time itself seemed to slumber. Not a single figure wandered through the deserted lanes. No lights flickered behind curtained windows, no wheels echoed on cobblestones. Not even the faintest bark of a dog disturbed the silence. The world outside appeared so hushed that every passenger felt, for the briefest of moments, that they could hear the train itself breathing. An exhale of steam, a steady, living heartbeat moving through the night. Some whispered among themselves that these were no ordinary places, but rather resting grounds for dreams grown weary, dreamlands where sleep itself lay curled up and content. Every so often, the train would glide past a village where an oil lamp burned gently on a stoop, an oasis of amber glow in the vast ocean of shadow. The flame was small, but it cast enough warmth to hold the darkness at bay, reducing the loneliness of night to something bearable. A swing hung from a gnarled old tree, the rope so ancient that its fibers were gray and split, creaking only faintly in the breeze. A sound that seemed suspiciously like laughter left behind by a child now vanished into the thick velvet of slumber. Sometimes the passengers would spot an elderly dog, its fur the color of wood ash, snoozing at the threshold of a weather-beaten house. It didn't stir as the train passed. Its dreams, heavy as stones at river's edge, kept it anchored far from the reach of the waking world. Even the vibrations of the passing carriages failed to rouse it, as though it had long since grown accustomed to the passing presence of the train and the mysteries it carried. A bit farther on, another village appeared, its centerpiece an ancient church with a tower that brushed the very clouds. At the precise moment when the train drew level, the church bell sounded the arrival of midnight, 12 slow chimes, each one resonating through the mist-laden air as if marking time for another world. But no doors opened in response. Not a single yellow glow joined the moonlight. The entirety of the village seemed to hold its breath, waiting out those somber notes as though anticipating a message from the universe whispered in tones only the weary or the wise could understand. The windows here were half-shuttered, yet through the gaps spilled puddles of moonlight, soft and unwavering. Inside, thin white curtains rose and fell, undulating gently. It was not the wind that moved them, but something quieter. The sigh of resting souls, the rhythm of breath in deepest sleep. In each passing glimpse, the village revealed just enough of itself to pique curiosity, to spark the most fleeting questions. And then, as quickly as it had come, it receded into darkness, merging back with the fabric of twilight. Only the faintest shimmer lingered in the eyes of those who watched, unsure if they had witnessed reality or merely the shadow of a shared dream. Some of the passengers, those given to speculation, whispered theories to each other as the train slid softly through the endless gentle dark. Perhaps, they wondered, no living person had ever walked those silent streets. Maybe those tiny villages were inhabited only by echo and hush, by the last fragments of dreams too fragile for daybreak. Others, more whimsical, or perhaps more hopeful, believed that each village might be a dream belonging to a sleeper from the other side of the world, a fragile domain built from their longing and memory. In this vision, the train itself became a messenger, traveling gently from dream to dream, bowing its head in silent greeting, never disturbing a soul. Whatever the truth might be, one thing became certain. The train moved through these lands with a special kind of caution, rolling forward as though careful not to shatter the crystal stillness that surrounded each sleeping village. Where on other nights and other tracks, the steel wheels screeched and clattered on iron rails, here they whispered, soft as a lullaby, rustling like the wind moving through fields of dry grass. Every motion was measured, respectful, as though the train had taken it upon itself not only to carry its passengers, but also to protect these fragile havens of sleep and silence. And in that otherworldly calm, even the birds quieted. No flutter of wings disturbed the night air, no insects hummed in hedgerows. If any birds were present, they pressed themselves close to the warm tiles of rooftops, eyes closed, listening to the distant, soothing song of metal rolling on metal. A sound as ancient and familiar as a bedtime story told by a grandmother too wise to raise her voice above a whisper. Gradually, as the last of the villages disappeared into the folds of the land behind, the sky itself seemed to change. Above the heads of the drowsy passengers, the dome of the heavens widened and brightened. More stars emerged, crowding together as if they too had just awakened from a long and peaceful sleep. Their light was crisp and clear, promising new possibilities ahead. Within each carriage, sleep pressed in more heavily, and nobody could say how many minutes or hours had slipped by while they watched the procession of dreaming towns glide past. The feeling that remained was impossible to describe, a sense of profound, untroubled harmony. It was the kind of memory people rarely recount in detail, instead recalling only a mist of emotion, a deep sigh of contentment, as if they had just awoken from a beautiful dream whose fragile fragments could never be fully grasped. Onwards the train continued, steered by an invisible hand, humming along the borderland between known and unknown, wakefulness and slumber. It moved as a keeper of secrets, the silence of the sleeping villages, the music of the midnight bell, the glow of the single lamp shining unclaimed on the stoop, all held safe within the gentle breathing of the night. And in the hearts of its passengers, as in the world outside, a single unspoken hope lingered, that such magical places did truly exist, caught forever between a dream and a memory, always just out of reach, but never forgotten. In the quiet spaces between waking and dreaming, there exists a train unlike any other, one that glides silently across rails that no map records, its destinations veiled in mystery and framed by the gentle haze of forgotten hopes. It is said in hushed tones, shared mostly among those who find themselves awake in the small hours of the night, that this train has no final station. Not because its conductor mislaid the timetable or because the tracks led it astray, but because it was never meant to arrive anywhere at all. It was conceived as a vessel for movement alone, an eternal lullaby riding the shimmering border between sleep and memory, designed only to carry tired souls through a dream that cradles them as softly as a pillow. On board, the air is filled with a gentle stillness, thickened by all the whispers and sighs of those who have come before. The train itself neither hurries nor lags. It goes when it wishes and always away from where one has just been. The windows bear the impression of countless faces that have peered through them, searching for signs in the rolling darkness. Yet outside is only an ever-shifting tapestry of fog and twilight. There are no scheduled stops, no familiar platforms materializing out of the mist. Yet curiously, passengers disappear. At first, it is a subtle affair, an empty seat here, a vacant berth there. No one notices these absences immediately. Perhaps the first to go are the quiet ones, those who keep their dreams closest to their chests. Then one morning, choked with mist, someone awakes to find the friend they'd spoken to the night before gone. Their belongings linger. An open book, a folded coat, a hat resting gently upon the rack. Their seat remains warmly imprinted with presence, as if they'd only stepped away for a moment. Yet they have vanished, dissolved as gently as dew on sunlit glass. No inquiries rise in the compartments. The silence is not broken by names called out into the sleepy air. There is a shared acceptance among the travelers, a solemn understanding that is not born of resignation but something deeper, softer. Each departure is greeted with a silent nod, as if acknowledging that, perhaps, the missing have reached a station seen only in their most cherished dreams, a memory hidden in the folds of their heart, a wish so fragile it could only be realized on this drifting otherworldly journey. Some say that when passengers leave, they do not take to the aisles and exit through doors with a click. Instead, something more enchanting happens. They become part of the subtle magic that animates the train, transforming into things almost too delicate for words. A single, glistening drop of dew on a glass window, catching the first blush of dawn. A white feather, swirling gently through the air, refusing to settle on any surface. A tiny note of music, barely audible, yet echoing within the soft lamplight like the memory of a lullaby once sung on a distant morning. As the train presses onwards, it steals into a country where the landscape blurs in shades of fog and pearl gray. No neon lights break the obscurity. Only the pallor of pure, cleansing light remains. At this hour, of all the passengers, none are awake. All have succumbed to a sleep deeper and more tranquil than anything known before. In this slumber, bodies become inconsequential, weightless. What remains are their dreams, drifting, mingling, floating through the carriages like dandelion fluff on a breeze. No one tries to rouse themselves. Questions do not flit across their minds. All urgency dissolves. The journey becomes an endless exhale, long and languid, with every traveler lighter, as if they are shedding memories, sorrows, even their names. Time slides by unnoticed, neither hurried nor stalled, and feet never quite touch the ground. Within their dreams, some are blessed with visions as vivid as starlight, racing once more through rain-sprinkled fields with the joy of childhood rushing in their veins. Others remember only the warm weight of a gentle hand upon their brow, a token from a loved one long since gone. Still others dream of nothing at all, lulled by the rare gift of perfect, untroubled silence, as if, for the first time in years, they have been allowed to simply rest. The train keeps moving. No sirens, no bright lights, no announcements punctuate the journey. Its song is a melody too soft to name, threading through the compartments, brushing every soul with comfort. At its heart, it is a story without an ending, whispering to its passengers that they are safe, that wherever they wish to go, even if they do not know it themselves, the train will carry them. In the world beyond, on solid, waking earth, few know of this ghostly locomotive. It passes unnoticed through cities that never sleep, across mountains wrapped in solitude, over rivers that remember the footsteps of those who once hoped for another chance. Its whistles weave through the night, heard only by those who are ready. But if just once you wake in the early morning and the world seems softer, if a faint, faraway train whistle curls through the mist outside your window, barely more than a breath, if sleep seems to wrap around you like a favorite blanket, urging your eyelids to fall even as the dawn breaks, if the light in your own room flickers, distant and star-like, drawing you to gentle oblivion, perhaps then your ticket has been stamped. Perhaps the train, that eternal vessel of restful dreaming, has come for you. Not with fanfares, not with crowds to see you off, but as silently as a wish set free on the wind. In that moment, you need only close your eyes. Let go of worry, of memory, of the weight you have carried so long. Drift into sleep, not with fear or longing, but with the certainty that you are on your way to somewhere only for you. A gentle slumber where your spirit is as light as breath, as unburdened as memory, and as free as time itself. A journey whose destination need never be known. Thank you everyone for your interest. Please like and subscribe to the channel to receive notifications of more stories.